Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Minister Yo. I want to thank you all for your support, and I want to thank you for continuing to watch this podcast. Today, our question comes from a married lady. Married ladies seem to be talking to me. This married lady sent in her question, and it reads as follows. It says, Dear Minister Yo, how can I convince my husband to consistently speak my love language? My love language is acts of service. Okay, that's a good one. How can I consistently get him to? Okay, so that means he's doing it, just not consistently. So that's good. That's good. So this is one that I had to go to the altar with this one. I prayed about this. And I asked the Lord what he wanted me to tell you. And so I'm going to read you what he said. It says, it's not your job to convince him. That's my job. I will deal with my son. You just be patient. It will all change sooner than you think. I see your heart, and you won't be disappointed. Keep praying. Keep binding the enemy over his mind. You are fighting against the real problem, which is Satan, not your husband. Remember, war room. Satan will not have your husband, your marriage, or your children. Pray, my daughter, pray. Stop complaining. Stop telling me what you see and how you feel. Speak the word and pray. Call those things that be not as though they were until it manifests. You have the power. You are not helpless. That was good. So God's given a little bit of correction in the beginning of this prophetic word. He was saying to her that it's not your job to convince your husband to do anything. And I know that may be an ouch for you. But your husband is an adult. And I know sometimes as women and mothers, because he said children, so I'm assuming you're a mother, I am convinced that this instinct that we have to nurture people sometimes can come across to our husbands as being just a tad bit bossy, even though that's not our heart. We're just so used to directing people that sometimes we can come across as being bossy. But I want you to heed what the Lord said and realize that you see the problem as your husband, but really the problem is the enemy. Really, it's the devil trying to destroy your marriage. It's really not him. It's what's behind the scenes brewing that we need to work on. So we need to do two things. We need to bind the enemy, and we need to confess the word. Why are we binding the enemy? We're binding the enemy because if we don't bind him, he will continue to leave fingerprints all over your marriage. Fingerprints in thoughts, in words, and deeds. The Bible says that the enemy searches, roams, looking for someone to devour. And maybe, just maybe, he's found a way to get in your marriage through your complaining. Just maybe. Just maybe. Just maybe. I know it's hard to hear. And we're so used to complaining. We're so used to saying what we see. We're so used to saying how we feel. But it's the word that stops the enemy. It's not what we see. It is not how we feel. It's the word that we speak that will stop the enemy. So the only way to convince your husband to change is for God to convince him. And what you can do is bind the enemy in his mind by making some confessions. Let's look at a couple. My husband has the mind of Christ. He hears God's voice only, and a stranger's voice he will not hear, and he will not follow. Now that's good. That's a good one. With Christ, my husband can do anything. Nothing is impossible for him with Christ. My husband chooses to consistently meet my needs and speak my love language, and my love tank overflows. Now, those who have read the book Love Languages by Gary Chapman know what I mean when I say love tank. So let's pause for the cause and discuss the 5 love languages. There are gifts, physical touch, acts of service, words of affirmation, and quality time. So each spouse has a predominant love language. And if that love language is spoken consistently, the author uses the word love tank to describe a tank being filled, like gas. You fill your car full of gas and then it starts to overflow once it gets full. Our goal is to have our spouse's love tank so full that it overflows, so that they feel loved by us in a way that they understand, in a way that they feel loved. So, for example, if your spouse's love language is gifts, and you start speaking words of affirmation, telling them how wonderful they are, that's not going to fill their love tank. They may appreciate you saying how pretty they are, how cute they are, how you appreciate what they do, but that's not what makes them feel loved. And so in order to feel love, we have to consistently speak our spouse's love language and fill up our spouse's love tank. And for more information about the 5 love languages, you can go to YouTube and check that out. Mike Moore Ministries, Pastor Mike did a podcast on marriage, specifically talking about love, and then he broke down the 5 love languages. Did an amazing job with that, with the 5 love languages. So our next confession is, my husband loves me the way Christ loves the church, because that's the goal. Jesus was not selfish. Jesus gave everything for the church. He gave everything for us. He put himself in harm's way for us. And that kind of selflessness is what husbands should demonstrate toward their wives. And then our marriage is like heaven on earth, and other couples want the marriage that we have. That's a good confession, because that's the goal of marriage. We're not just married so our bedroom can be fine. No, that's not why we get married. We get married so we can exemplify God into this world. They can see God in our marriage. They can see God in how we relate to each other. And they want what we have. And that gives us the opportunity to not only tell them about our marriage, but that gives us the opportunity to also share Christ with them. Because at the end of the day, your marriage being on point, your marriage being 100 is all about God being glorified at the end of the day. That's my best shot. I hope it helped you. If you want to reach out to me, you can DM me and we can discuss it further. But that's my best shot. It was tight, but right. It was tight, but right. If you have any questions, you can reach me on TikTok at Yolanda Bethay #2. On IG, you can reach me on YB_ministries. And on Facebook, you can reach me on Yolanda Bethay Ministries International Facebook page. I appreciate your time. If this has blessed you, please like and share. And until next time, go in God.